All right, it's 4:01, and we are ready for the cookie clicker workshop on how to build a cookie clicker clone with Meteor.js. So, looks like we don't have as many viewers for this workshop as the first two workshops that we were doing. So I thought I'd invite you guys to join directly into this Google. Oh, okay, never mind. There's more and more people coming up. But anyways, all right. Let's get started with this workshop then. Give me 1 second. Get the screen share up. Alright, great. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to run through part 1 of this 2-part tutorial that's on the Student R&D site. So I'm Edward, and I'm the founder of Student R&D and Code Day. And basically, Student R&D is a nonprofit organization that that gets students to start working on more tech projects in their free time. So if you haven't already seen Code Day, you should definitely check it out. So Code Day Spring 2014 is coming up in just 7 days, and it's going to be a nationwide event, which is going to be a lot of fun, where we all get together and build awesome apps and video games in 24 hours. And so this is what the workshops are for. So definitely check them out. They're pretty much in almost every major city in the US, so it should be a lot of fun. Anyways, so okay, cool. All right, so let's get started then. So what we're going to be building today is Coder Clicker, which is a cookie clicker clone. So I mentioned it earlier in one of the workshops, but it is an interesting game that got a lot of my friends addicted about like a summer or two ago. And pretty much what it is yeah, why don't I send the link to join the Hangout, because it looks like we have 13 people, so not everyone's going to be joining anyways. So just go to plus.google.com/hangout/ I can't paste the actual link into the comments, so I have to go through that. But yeah, so cookie clicker. The game isn't quite loading on my computer right now for some reason. But anyways, it's this game where you click on a cookie and then you make money, and then you get to buy stuff to make you more money if you click. So it's kind of like a basic RPG, where you say buy a sword so you can kill monsters, so you can so you can get more money, so you can buy a better sword, so you can kill better monsters to get even more money. It's kind of the basic idea behind Cookie Clicker. Instead, you just click on a cookie to buy grandmas to bake you more cookies, so you can buy more grandmas and cookie farms and cookie factories, and eventually build an alchemy lab where you turn gold into cookies because they're so valuable in this universe. So. It should be a public hangout though. So Tyler is saying you can't join the hangout because it's not a public hangout. I was able to get people on the hangout in one of the other things as well, but anyways, okay, let's try this out. So what we're going to be using to build Cookie Clicker is the Meteor.js framework, which is a really popular framework to build real-time web applications. So what I mean by real-time web applications, so that could be something like Google Docs, where you can interact and edit a document simultaneously with other people. It could be something like Trello, where you're modifying a task list with other people in real time. It could even be something like Twitter or Facebook, where you can chat in real time with your friends, or whenever someone makes a post, that you see the post come up in real time. But for the most part, it's more for web applications instead of websites. So a website would be somewhere where you just view the different pages that are on the site and that are mostly unchanging. So we're going to be using these two tools to make Coder Clicker, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And the game, even though really simple, and we're going to build it within an hour and a half over here today, even though it's really simple, it's definitely still very addicting. So like, I mean, I have a few tweets from people who are saying, I'm playing Cookie Clicker and Coder Clicker at the same time. I'm definitely going to fail the math test tomorrow. And my hands are numb from Coder Clicker. So Meteor, it's really cool. I was able to, I mean, I used to do more web dev when I was in high school, and what we're going to be doing with Meteor in an hour is going to be a lot more than what we were able to do with PHP and Ajax and whatnot at the time in much longer stretches of times. So let's get started with setup. And so I'd like you guys to open up the Cookie Clicker tutorial. Okay, yeah, it's not public. I'd like you to open up the Cookie Click or the Coder Clicker tutorial. It's at the bottom of the live stream's description. And then if you scroll down to getting started, it's going to ask you to install two things. It's going to, ask you to install Meteor, which you can get from the Meteor website. And two, it's going to ask you to install a text editor if you don't already have one, like Notepad++ or Sublime Text. So start getting these installed, and then I will start talking to you and explaining kind of how Meteor works and what it does, and so on and so forth. So let's see. All right, cool. So what is Meteor? So Meteor primarily refers to two things, and Meteor refers to one, a bunch of useful tools in a library that can help you build web applications. So a library is usually what programmers refer to as a group of of classes and code that will help you do things. Meteor is a bunch of useful tools grouped together in a library to help you build web applications. The second thing that Meteor refers to is a command line tool called Meteor that helps you to package and deploy applications developed using this library. So if you haven't used the command line tool before, that's okay. We'll get started with using the command line tools together today with this workshop. But let's talk about how things work in Meteor. So in Meteor, a key principle really is that things work really identically on both the client and the server. So if you're new to web programming, this isn't always the case. So before, and even now, how developers oftentimes separate themselves into is two groups. So you have one group which is called back-end web developers, and so back-end web developers typically use Ruby on Rails or PHP, Python, or Node.js to create a REST API or create other sort of tools to handle accessing and processing information. Then you have the front-end developers. They use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to request, process, and display the data. So, the backend devs, they create the infrastructure that stores all of the information, that accesses all of the information, that handles a lot of the logic. The front-end developers request and process and display that information. So in Meteor, both of the sides are written in JavaScript, and they use the same libraries to access and store the information. So before, you put in a lot of work in how to communicate between the backend and the front-end developers. Now with Meteor, you don't have to think about that anymore, which makes it a lot faster to design and deploy web apps. So how's this done? Two things. One, Meteor automatically synchronizes data between the server and the client side and uses the same programmatic interfaces so that you can access the data in the web browser as you do on the server. And the second thing is reactivity. As soon as data changes, Meteor is already watching your templates for where you use the data so that it automatically updates it. So you don't have to write code to pull for changes, to watch for changes, and to update things when things change. So it makes things a lot easier, especially at hackathons like Code Day, to actually get started, to build something that you're really, really proud of. So yeah, if you want to check out what you're going to be building, go to coderclicker.meteor.com and you'll be able to do so. So let's start out by defining what we want to build for Coder Clicker. So show you a screenshot, or I mean, you can go to the Coder Clicker webpage. So how you see this right now, it's me versus Aaron, and I can spend my money to buy various things that will make me more money. But pretty much, we have three things. One is a leaderboard. This leaderboard shows, look, here's who I am, here's how much money I have, and here's how much money I make per second. And Aaron's definitely outclassing me right now. You can see even like Sean just signed up for Coder Clicker. We just see his name immediately. If he starts clicking on right line of code, we're going to see his money instantly starting to increment. And you can write lines of code, you can buy things with it, and then use that to buy more money, to make more money. So it's all about the dollar bills in this game. And see, I just bought another Bitcoin miner, and you can see Sean's money going up, Aaron's money going up, and so on and so forth, and those, which is kind of cool. So we have three things, right? One, we have the leaderboard, which you can see people. Then you have your own display, which is pretty much the same thing as the leaderboard. It just shows you, Ed Jang, have $6,000 and make $200 per second, right? And then a bunch of buttons. So two types of buttons. One type is the type to make you more money. So when I click right line of code, it makes me more money. When I click, and then another type of button to start buying things. So I can buy Bitcoin miners, so I can buy monkeys, so I can buy apps and interns and freelancers to make me more and more money. So those are kind of the three things that we want: the leaderboard, your own display, and then the two types of items, or the two right line of code and then the buy buttons. So, again, it's very simple, but it got lots of people addicted, right? History paper plus Coder Clicker is not good. Supposed to be doing my calculus homework, but I'm too busy playing Coder Clicker. What have you done? Okay. So right now, I am going to assume that most of you have Meteor and Sublime Text or another text editor installed. So we are going to open up the command line. Now, if you're not familiar with the command line, here's how to get it opened up. If you're on Windows, type in CMD and press Enter. And, well, open up the Start menu and type in CMD. And then you'll open up this black box, which you can type in magical commands into, and your computer will do that. If you're on Mac, open up the Applications folder, or open up the search bar using the Command space short key, and then navigate to and open up the terminal, Terminal. And then that will open up a white box that is very similar. Again, it will just let you type in commands and do it. And I mentioned this in my last workshop, but the command line is very popular among programmers. And once you start doing more programming, you're going to be using the command line more and more often. And the reason is because the command line allows you to type in commands. Now, while it might seem inconvenient at first because you have to memorize what commands you're going to be typing in, think of a complicated program like Microsoft Office. There's so many different options that you can click on that it takes so much time to actually learn where things are. And even if you know how to do things, sometimes you might not remember where things are placed, or you might hate clicking through the same tree and menu of buttons and buttons and buttons to do it. Using the command line allows you to go faster because you can type in your commands, and people are generally fast typers. The second thing is that means that it's easier for you to write a program to automate things on your computer, because programs, it's harder for a program to click on things, but it's easier for a program to type into things. So those are kind of the reasons why. So how to use this command line. So you open this up. Usually it's going to dump you into what's your home directory. So on Windows, that's C:/user/your username. On Mac, that's usually the the /users/username folder. So I want to first create a folder where we can save all of our lovely files related to Coder Clicker. So I'm just going to make a folder in my Documents folder called Coder Clicker. Okay, so navigate to that. So it's in My Documents, Coder Clicker. So in the command line, we're going to learn our first command today, which is the CD command. And the CD command stands for Change Directory. It allows you to move between folders, just like if you're in Windows Explorer and you're double-clicking on a folder and that brings you to it. the cd command is the analog in the command line. So I'm going to say cd documents because I want to change directory and enter into my documents folder, and cd coder clicker. You don't have to use a quotation. I actually used autocomplete, but cd coder clicker should work, and then it gets you the coder clicker folder. So make sure that you do this. If you have any questions or are lost, post in the YouTube comments. I'll be watching them, and I'll be able to help get you unstuck if need be. So, okay. So, coder clicker. We got into this directory. Now we already have the Meteor application installed, so we're going to be able to actually. Okay, I actually made a slight mistake here. We don't need to actually make the coder clicker folder in our documents directory. We can delete it if need be. If not, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to delete it for my sanity. But what we're going to actually do is we're going to type in Meteor create coder clicker. Okay, so Meteor is also automatically going to create a folder, so that's why I didn't need that folder. But it's going to create a folder called coder clicker and put in a base template of files that you can use to start coding your new Meteor project. And they're trying to make it a little simpler. If you were in my 2 p.m. workshop earlier today, you might have remembered that setting up the Node.js thing was just not the easiest. So with this, it was a lot simpler to get that set up. So Meteor create coder clicker, and it says to run your new app, change the directory into coder clicker, and then just type in the Meteor command. So we can do that. Let's try cd coder clicker Meteor. And when we just type in Meteor just by itself, when we're in a directory and there's a Meteor project in there, Meteor will start running the Meteor server and run the web page. So if we go to localhost:3000, we can see it says, "Hello world, welcome to coder clicker," and then a button that says click. That button is actually kind of coincidental. It's not because it's like, oh, you're making coder clicker, we'll make a button for you to click on. It's just the default sort of hello world page that Meteor gives you. So, all right, great. So let me know if you're not at this point. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that you are at this point and have the hello world page up on coder clicker. So the next thing that we're going to do, in the next 10 minutes, we're going to be spending more of our time on just maintenance sort of things, just to get setup work to make sure our product works. So we have this Meteor server running. We're going to exit out of it, and what we do is if we type in Control-C or Command-C and just tap it like 3 or 4 times, we are going to exit out of the Meteor server and now go back into command prompt where we can type in more commands. So we're going to add 3 packages. So remember, Meteor is a group, it's a set of packages. It's a library with different things that help you do websites, web apps. I'm going to add 3 packages to help us make things easier. So while we have this tutorial open, I'd like you to also click on this link to the Meteor documentation as well, the Meteor docs. And so this is like the Bible to Meteor. Everything you need to know about Meteor is actually listed on this web page. So we're gonna. I'll have plenty of links to Meteor documentation later on in this tutorial as well. But a lot of the things that I'm going to be pulling up and we're going to use out of Meteor is actually in the documentation. So it's not like I just came up with magical incantations on my own. They're in the documentation, and I'll show you where to find more information about what we're using. So the first thing is the documentation. You'll see that we actually have a bunch of different packages that we can use. And those packages will help us set up our website a bit faster. So we're going to add 3 packages to our site. The first one, and type in the command Meteor add Bootstrap. And Bootstrap is just a CSS framework that just gives you some default styles and themes for your website, just to make things a little easier and prettier for what we're doing. So we're going to add Bootstrap. The second two things we're going to add is Meteor add accounts-password. And Meteor add accounts-UI. And type in all three of these and get these packages installed. So again, for a lot of web apps, you're going to have accounts, and accounts are very common. And Meteor is like, why make everyone make their own accounts if we can take care of that for them? So you can see in the documentation, it actually shows you how they implement their accounts, how their users work, how all this stuff works, which just makes it easier for us to get to what we want to do, which is build Coder Clicker, not creating the account system for Coder Clicker. And you can see I'm slightly obsessive compulsive here, and it's already making sure that I have all of my money spent and I'm macroing well. So I have 665 DPS in this thing. So okay, great. So now you notice that we add the accounts-UI package, and if we go look at the packages, it says, oh, accounts.UI. What does it do? It's a turnkey user interface for Meteor accounts. So if you want, you can simply add the login buttons helper to HTML file, and then it will add a login widget to the page, which is certainly what we want to do. I mean, it makes things easier for now, so we can focus on the more fun stuff of creating Coder Clicker. So let's do this. Open up that folder which you created in your Coder Clicker project, and then you see you have 3 files, right? Let's open all of these up with Sublime Text. Easiest way to do that is open up Sublime Text and drag the 3 files into here, and then they'll all open up. So there are 3 files. One is coderclicker.js, one is coderclicker.html, and one is coderclicker.css. The JS file is going to have all of the logic associated with your web app. The HTML file is going to have all the presentation and display, and CSS is going to show the styling of the presentation and display. So we're going to mostly work in the .js and the HTML files. But first, we're adding in the login button. So the display of everything is in the HTML files. So we're going to copy the login budgets helper into this HTML file. And I'm going to assume that you have some basic knowledge of HTML with this workshop. And so you can see here looks like pretty basic HTML. We have the head, the title tags, the body tags, and here we have the !hello tag. Here we have something, so that's kind of interesting because it's something that we usually don't see in HTML. That's right, because this isn't HTML. I mean, this is HTML, but it's HTML with a few extensions on board. This is using what's called the handlebars templating engine, which adds a few things to make programmatically generating HTML pages a little easier. So you can see this !hello thing. What it's actually doing is it's inserting this template name equals to hello into here. So with the accounts.UI thing, they created the login buttons, which is going to insert the login buttons to our page as well. So we're going to paste in the login buttons right ahead of the hello template. And if we start running the web application again by opening up Meteor in the command line, we refresh, you can see, okay, it looks like something didn't quite work out for me. Let me just undo everything. See if it works. Okay, I undid everything and it worked. And I can add it into this template. It shouldn't matter where I put it in, but add the packages properly. Hmm. Okay, that's weird. I think I was looking at the documentation, and it seems like they might have changed things slightly. And I'm on an older version of Meteor because I didn't update it. But I'm using the one in the tutorial, and with the tutorial, you don't need this caret in front of login buttons, and that should make things work properly. So, yep, there we go. So you can see now I've added in the sign-in form into this web page. Okay, Rich is asking, I didn't get updated, which is I'm not exactly sure what he means. And yes, we are using Meteor. We are not using Express.js in this tutorial. So, okay, so we add the login buttons to the body right in front of the hello template. And then we get the login buttons here. Boom. One thing that we notice is it asks us for our email address, which is actually not what we want. You see on the coder clicker game, here we're using usernames, and it would definitely be not as exciting if everyone had to use their email address instead of their usernames. So how do we fix this? Well, let's go to the documentation to check it out. In this documentation, it says, to configure the behavior of login buttons, use accounts.ui.config. So we're going to click on this. It's going to say, oh, here's how to configure it. And we can say email only, which is the default, or we can say username only. So let's just say username only, because we want people to sign up with usernames. Another thing that you'll see in this is that it says client on the top side, right-hand side of this documentation. Sometimes, if you look here, it says anywhere. Sometimes it says template. Sometimes it says like server. This shows where this code is valid. So here it says server, right? So it says that the UI config is actually a client-side option. Now, why that's important is because if we go back into this JavaScript file, you can see in the JavaScript file we have two portions. The first portion is if Meteor is client, and the second portion is if Meteor is server. So even though we're using the same sort of code to access data on the client and server side, there's still some separation here. And here we're going to configure the UI for the accounts thing in the client side. So on the client side, we're going to add this snippet of code. If you go to the blog, I would suggest that you just copy and paste. And right after the if Meteor is client line of code, which is the first line of code, paste in the accounts UI config, password sign up field is username only. I save this. Meteor automatically refreshes if the Meteor server is running. So you can see now it already changes to username and password-based sign-in rather than email. Everything. So it looks like Rich took out the caret and now has a blank page. So I'm just going to suggest if you install Meteor just today, just leave the caret in, since it looks like they just changed the API a little bit. So that, okay, Rich is having issues there. I will come back to help fix that in a bit. So after the main tutorial is over. Okay. Okay, so if you read the snippet of code, right, we're saying accounts.ui config, and then we're passing in password sign-up fields is username only. And again, this is because we're actually passing in a JavaScript object. If you're confused on why we're passing key pair values into there, just read up more on JavaScript objects. There's a link in the tutorial. So next thing that we want to do is make sure that we initialize the user correctly. So we want every user to start with $0 and $0 per second. So if we look in the accounts section of the documentation, you can see there's actually something that says on create user. So when there's a new user creation, you can add some data associated with it. So it says we pass in 2 arguments, options and user, and then here's some sample code around it. Again, we're just going to copy and paste this for now. Again, I think, so remember there's links to the documentations in this tutorial so you can look more into this in the future. But remember, this is a server-side option. So this is something that, remember, the client side is more about presentation of data. Server is more about storing and accessing and whatnot for data. So here, the server-side option, because we are making sure that when we create a new user, we set the things properly, and the server is where that happens. So accounts.onCreateUser, user.money equals to 0, and user.rate equals to 0. So we're going to set both of them to 0. We're going to save. We're going to be good. Okay. Next thing that we have to do is then install the auto-publish. So next thing that we do is actually a little stuff that we don't need to really do today. But the way that this tutorial is set up is we will do it. And the other thing is that it's good to be in the habit of. And the reason is because by default, Meteor installs 2 modules. One is called auto-publish, and the second thing is called insecure. Yes, like literally there's a module called insecure automatically installed to every single Meteor project. Now the reason why is it makes it easier for us to develop projects and to start things out. But you know, if you have a module literally called insecure installed, you can guess that your web application is not going to be very secure. So we are going to open up our command prompt again, and see, we're going to open up our command prompt, and then we're going to exit out of the Meteor server, and we're going to say Meteor remove auto-publish and Meteor remove insecure. Boom. So now we have 2 less problems to worry about. Now the thing is, now we have to actually publish the user data. So remember, as I said, Meteor automatically synchronizes the data between the server and the client. And the reason is because think of the server and the client being like, you know, your bank's bank account, that could be a server, and a client being your phone, right? If I modify or I hack the app on my phone to say that I have $1 million, it's not going to change the fact that on the server at the bank they don't think that I actually have $1 million, because in their records I don't have $1 million. I can have the app and I can successfully hack the app so it says that I have $1 million, but it doesn't change the fact that I actually don't. Same thing in here. So synchronizing the data between the client and the server, we need to now publish the data so that it gets synchronized, and so that the two, you know, where the actual data is being stored and where the actual data is being displayed are synchronized properly. So in the server-side code, so in Meteor, all of the data is automatically stored in Meteor collections, which are an interface to MongoDB. So if you want to learn more about both of them, you should definitely read a little more on them. Meteor collections you can find in the Meteor documentation, and MongoDB, it's a very popular database software that people are using now for a lot of web applications. So for most data, you would initialize a collection and create a collection of data. The server will automatically store it in the database. But today we're going to use the Meteor.user collection, which is a special database that Meteor provides by default when we're using their user accounts thing. So in the server code, we're going to say Meteor publish user data. So in the is server section, Meteor publish user data, return Meteor.user.find. We're going to find the empty object, which means find everything, and sort it by money in a descending basis. If you're confused on how the syntax is exactly working, we recommend learning a little more about JavaScript. It's a bit out of the scope of this tutorial. But anyways, so now the server's offering this data at this endpoint called user data. And if we now, in the client side, we say, hey, we are going to subscribe to the user data. Now the user data, the Meteor.users collection on the server is synchronized directly with the client. So that means whenever you have a website open, it's going to be automatically synchronized. If you wanted to set if you wanted to set permissions for like stuff that users could access or not access, there's a way to do that. If you look in the documentation, in the publish section, you can find out how to allow or disallow viewing certain fields. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is now we want to. Now we have the user accounts, and we have the user accounts. People can sign up for users. Now the users are being synchronized between your web browser and the actual storage where things are happening. Now we want to actually display information about the users to you, right? Because right now it just says hello world. It doesn't, even though the data is being synchronized, it's not actually being displayed. So if you go back to the HTML page that we had, you can see here it says hello world, and then it says greeting. But if we go to the web page, it says welcome to Coder Clicker. That's the actual greeting. Where is this greeting coming from? You go back to the JavaScript file, and you can see template.hello.greeting. Remember, this is inside a template called hello. Template.hello.greeting is equal to function return welcome to Coder Clicker. So if I change this and I say return AWEF and random words that I'm just, and start my Meteor server again, refresh, it says AWEF. So what we want to do now is actually bind our user data to the template, so we can access the user data in the template. So in the client-side section, what we can say is, and just paste this code, template.hello.user is equal to function where we return Meteor's user data. Now, what that allows us to do, remember we have these variables in here. Now we can say something like hello world or hello world. I'm going to copy this here. But you, user.username, have $user.money and make $user.rate per second. So displaying all these variables. And here it says you have dollar and make dollar per second. You don't have any data here because I'm not logged in. But if I create an account, then it says you, test, have $0 and make $0 per second. It's awesome. And all of this data is being synchronized and everything in between all these web browsers. So the next thing that we want to do is to get the click to work. So the template, we're going to add a button. We're going to replace the button that we already have in the HTML file. Here it says input type equals to button, value equals to click. We're going to replace it with input type equals to button, class equals to code button span 4, and value equals to write line of code, $25. So value here now says write line of code. The other thing that we added was the class here. So span 4 is a class that that Bootstrap uses to say how wide we want the button to be. So span 4 makes it this wide. BTN applies the default button stylings, so this nice gray silverish button. And then code is something that we're going to watch for to programmatically access this button. So we have this button here. We can click on it, but nothing happens. So what we need to do now is add the clicking functionality. So what we want to do here is actually add what's called a remote procedure call. Because as I said earlier, I was using the example of an app and a bank account, right? Like if I have an app that says I have $1 million, the bank's data is not going to be right. So if in the app, for instance, I can deposit, or if I go to ATM and I deposit money, and let's say the ATM had direct access to modify my dollar amount in the bank. So it's like, I'm going to say, hey, set Ed's money to $1 million, right? If I could hack the ATM, then suddenly, boom, like my bank account's rich. But that's not how we want it to happen, because especially in a game like Coder Clicker, we don't want people to be able to cheat and add money through your account. And like the machines that the code is running on is insecure, right? It's on people's web browsers, so they could do whatever they want to intercept that request. So instead, we want to do what's called a remote procedure call, which instead we contact the server and we say, hey, Edward is initiating a click. So what that means is, hey, he's doing a click. Now the server says, okay, the click means we are going to add $25 to his balance. Versus me saying, hey, Edward now has $1 million. Okay, we're going to trust that you're correct on that basis. So Meteor has a built-in way of doing remote procedure calls. And what that is called the Meteor methods library. And Meteor methods are remote functions that Meteor clients can invoke. If you look at this, it actually is interesting because it says Meteor methods work anywhere. And it's not just the client, and it's not just the server. And that's because Meteor actually simulates the code on both the client and server. Because let's say if we say, hey, I'm going to click, the bank says, okay, now you have $25 more. Give me a like a half-second delay between when I click and when my account says I have more money, which is not fun. You want it to be as lag-free as possible. So instead, you have this is actually going to be simulating what you're doing on both sides. So let's take this snippet of code, the Meteor methods thing, and instead of putting it in the Meteor.isClient section or the Meteor.isServer section, we are going to put this code right below the if Meteor is server into its own section. We're going to say, when we click, we're going to have a function that updates the user's ID and increments their money by 25. When it's on the client side, they're going to try to modify it. They're going to, on the server, it's going to modify it and actually be saved. So, so now we have this RPC set, and things will be working here. Now we want to add the click event, and if you see already, we have template.hello.event. When people click on the input button, then it's going to say you press the button. We're going to just replace this, and we're going to say when you click on an input button with the class of code. That's why we had the class code here, because we're saying when there's a click on the input button called code, we're going to use the Meteor call, and we're going to call this click method. And all of this documentation for the events is also in the template section. It shows you the event map and what sort of event types that you can have. It says like click is one of the event types. So now we've connected. When people click on the button, then it's going to call this function, which is going to increment our money. If I save this and try clicking, it's going to increment my money. And it's synchronized with the server, so instead of just happening on a local host, I can open up a new tab. You can see that's happening on both sides. Okay, so now we have this app that, remember, Meteor is keeping it synchronized. So we have this app where now we can click on a button, make money, and it gets synchronized, which is awesome. Okay. So that's actually where I wanted to get to in about an hour of in about an hour of this workshop. Now I know that there's part 2 of this online tutorial that you can keep going on in your free time that will help you add the buy buttons and make it multiplayer and upload it to Meteor servers. I'm going to just show you the uploading to Meteor servers really quickly, and then I'll go to helping you guys debug and make sure that things are working, because I know some of you are having issues with different things regarding this application. So now what I can do is I can say Meteor deploy, let's say Edward Coder Clicker Workshop. And now it's actually going to upload it straight to the Meteor website. So if I go to edwardcoderclickerworkshop.meteor.com and just wait a little bit because it's still uploading right now. But if I wait, okay. So I have this online. You guys can try going into yourself as well at edwardcoderclickerworkshop.meteor.com. You can sign in, create an account, and then you click, they'll be synchronized, and that's great. Alright, so now pretty much you're at this point. Anyone can be creating accounts on here. All we need to do is add buy buttons and then add the leaderboards, which show, I mean, it's pretty much a leaderboard is the same thing as what we have here, except it shows it for all of the characters, so it's going to loop through them. So we pretty much have almost everything done to make Coder Clicker a reality. And I want you to really just go through the rest of the tutorial, absorb some of this information, since I know I've been going through it really quickly, and just actually make it happen over the next few hours or next week before Code Day, and learn a little more on how to work with Meteor. So now that I've kind of gone through this, I know as you said it was a bit fast, but I'd like to help you guys work through the issues that you've been having. Can you guys message me either in the comments section of the YouTube channel or on Skype? My username is Edward Starcraft, and then let me know how I can help make sure that your app is working properly. I know. Rich, were you able to get everything working? Hey.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. I just wanted to what's that? Alright. What's this? It's a one. Oh yeah. So for Code Day, are you writing apps like this?
It's up to you what you want to do. So you can, if you want, you can build things with Construct. You know, you can build things that are web apps, that are phone apps, that are video games. It's really up to you.
Alright.
Were you able to follow along with this tutorial? This is the first time I've done this online, so I'm not as sure how it went.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay, Cool.
Right, cool. I will start this up.
Okay. Okay, Rich, if you're having errors, I can look over the file if you want to call or screen share or something like that. Hey. All right, let's take a look at your code.
I think I'm missing some code.
Okay, what's the error? Okay, unexpected token comma on line 12. Okay, let's take a look at line 12. Ooh, where did you? Oh, I think you just copied like the one line before. So I mean, just remove the insert colon thing, because I think that was part of the tutorial. It says insert colon this stuff, right? So I think you just copied an extra line by accident. So try this.
Follow along, so it's hard.
Yeah, I know I was going a bit fast here.
Yeah.
Okay, try this out then.
Also, how do I escape from this so I don't get stuck on the... Is there like a button?
You can just press Control-C to exit out. But I mean, this is good. I mean, it will automatically refresh, so you don't have to. Okay, so it says on line 27 you have an unexpected. Right. I mean, it's going to do the same thing because it automatically scans for file changes, so you don't actually have to. So line 27. Let's take a look at line 27. Okay, so okay, get rid of the comma before the. Yeah, I think that will fix it. No, you don't have to restart this. Press no. Okay, that does it. Okay, you don't have the line 27 though. Okay, take a look here. Let me look at my code really quickly. No, the comma isn't it. Can you go back to your code so I can just compare it really quickly to mine? I think you deleted a bracket at the end of the. Oh, okay. Can you collapse the thing starting from if Meteor.is server? Okay, yeah, here's the issue. Okay, uncollapse it. Okay. You just have a lot of your indents and everything like really messed up. Okay, click on the first bracket right after if Meteor is server. What does it show it ends? Click on the bracket itself because it will highlight which is corresponding pair. Can't find a corresponding pair. So no, that's not where it should be. Right after accounts.onCreateUser, like that section of code. Add like another ending bracket. No.
There?
Right after there, yeah.
There?
No. After accounts.onCreateUser. Because remember, in the isServer section, you have the onCreateUser code. That's part of the. Okay, now save this. I think this should work. Cool. Okay, so now you still haven't done the remove, auto publish, and those things. So.
So that's it?
Yeah, so okay, now exit out of the Meteor server. So Control-C. Just tap that a few times. Okay. Meteor remove, unpublish, auto publish.
Auto publish?
Yep. Meteor remove insecure. Okay, now. Okay, so just type in Meteor again and then try it. Yeah. So you go to localhost 5000 or 3000. Okay, you also didn't add the Meteor. You also didn't add Meteor accounts and so on and so forth. So go back up where it says Meteor add bootstrap. Yeah, you just never ran either of those commands. You just pass it. You just pass it. Meteor add bootstrap. Go back up. It's right next to the tweets. Right here. Right here.
Oh, I did that.
Okay. Did you add the second two? Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, like the account-password, it's like one of the Meteor packages to do sign-in services. There's also account-Facebook, for instance, if you want to configure Facebook sign-in, or account-Twitter, or account-GitHub, for any of those. Even like account-Weibo for Sina Weibo sign-in. And make sure you spell Meteor correctly. Okay, you just skipped the second one. Okay, now let's try running it again.
Alright.
Okay, cool. Now you need to add the buttons and everything, and you should be good.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. All right, anyone else have questions? It looks like no one's really been messaging any questions. So if so, feel free to email if you have any further questions. Otherwise, I'll see you at Code Day this upcoming weekend. So just go to codeday.org, make sure you have a ticket, and see you soon. So if you have any further questions, just tweet at Edward Starcraft on Twitter or Skype, Edward Starcraft. And I'll be definitely be willing to help out. So thank you so much for watching this this workshop. Let me know how things were. You know, it's the first time I've done these online workshops before, so definitely could use feedback about what we could do better to make these workshops better. All right. So thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great weekend. And see you at Code Day.